Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to stately Von Manor, where Roger and I have returned. Because it's Wednesday, that means it's Epic Comic Book Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we'll talk about a certain comic book, graphic novel, or comic book subject. Steve Donoghue over on his channel will talk about the same comic book, graphic novel, or comic book subject. It is our world's finest team up that we do once a week. And this week, we're talking about Spider-Man. Spider-Man, Roger. Marvel's greatest superhero, Spider-Man. And Spider-Man's ultimate villain. Well, I don't know if he's the ultimate villain. That might be the Green Goblin. Or it might be this villain that we're talking about today, Dr. Octopus. Because we're talking about the first time Spider-Man ever faced Dr. Octopus in the story, cleverly titled, Spider-Man versus Dr. Octopus, which happened a long time ago when Spider-Man was just beginning his Spider-Man adventures. It was early in his career. He had fought one villain at least that was good. He had fought the Vulture by this point. But he had never fought anybody like Dr. Octopus. Dr. Octopus is a very powerful villain. And Spider-Man hadn't fought anybody that powerful before. And he was feeling pretty cocky at this point. He was a high school kid still. He was still in high school. And he was cocky. He thought he could just beat everybody because he had these tremendous Spider-Man powers. So let's go back to those long ago days of 1962. I think it was 62. When Spider-Man faces this guy, Dr. Octopus. So I'm breaking out my Spider-Man Epic Collection Volume 1. This is great power, followed by great responsibility. This is the first Marvel Epic Collection for Spider-Man, which has Amazing Fantasy 15, Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 17, and the first Spider-Man Annual. It's a fantastic book. It's been reprinted at least once and probably twice. These stories have been reprinted a million times. You've got the first Spider-Man Omnibus. You've got Marvel Masterworks that have these stories. So they're not hard to get. The first time I read these stories, and this particular story with Dr. Octopus, was when I was a little kid. I had a little paperback sized reprint of the first 6 issues of Spider-Man, and I read those over and over and over again. And I love this Dr. Octopus story. I also had a Viewmaster. Do you guys remember the Viewmasters? They're like these little plastic things that you could stick these circular cards in, and then you could look at the different scenes. And I had one that was Spider-Man versus Dr. Octopus. And it was awesome on the Viewmaster, I have to say. So I really like that story. So let's take a look at it in this Epic Collection. It was the 3rd issue of Spider-Man, and it had a suitably exciting cover. Dr. Octopus in shadow there is holding up a helpless Spider-Man. He's helpless. As he says, "You are helpless, Spider-Man. I warned you that the power of Dr. Octopus is far greater than yours. America's most exciting superhero captured by the world's most dreaded supervillain. A book-length super thriller. Spider-Man faces his most powerful foe, Dr. Octopus. Can anything that lives defeat the mighty Dr. Octopus? Well, we're going to find out." So this is a story drawn by Steve Ditko, back when Steve Ditko was at the height of his drawing powers. And we also have the Human Torch makes an appearance, a very short appearance, but an important one. The Human Torch from the Fantastic Four. And so we've got this Stan Lee story, and it says right here, Dr. Octopus, the only enemy ever to defeat Spider-Man. What? Well, we got to find out what's happening there. So we start off with Spider-Man taking care of some regular crooks who are stealing this safe. Spider-Man has come up with his awesome Spider-Man flashlight that scares the villains, and then he dives down and beats the hell out of him. The villains, these common criminals are just like, get him, there are 3 of us. He can't take us all. Brother, you're living in a fool's paradise, says Spider-Man as he jumps down there and kicks the crap out of him, shining his mighty Spider-Man flashlight. As he says, it's almost too easy. I've run out of enemies who can give me any real opposition. I'm too powerful for any foe. I almost wish for an opponent who'd give me a run for my money, says Spider-Man. Well, little does he know that at the Atomic Research Center, Dr. Octavius is using his newly invented robotic arms so that he can experiment with radioactivity safely. He's totally safe. See how he's just standing behind this one piece of glass there that'll totally protect him from dangerous radiation as he uses his arms, which don't become irradiated at all. So he's a genius, this guy, clearly, Dr. Octopus. And he's got these robotic arms that he uses in his experiments. But wouldn't you know it, something goes wrong, as these sorts of things do. And look at that fantastic panel. That's amazing. This reminds me kind of a Jack Kirby panel, but it's Steve Ditko, and it's fantastic. And Dr. Octopus, Dr. Octavius, is rescued from the irradiated rubble by these guys in radiation suits. He wakes up in the hospital, and he's insane. He's still a genius, but now he's an insane genius. And he pretty much remained an insane genius for the rest of his life. And suddenly, he can control his robotic arms, which have become fused to his body. And he can control them with just his mind. So now he's become the mighty Dr. Octopus. So his arms are awesome. They have tremendous power. But behind the arms, he seems to just be a regular guy. He seems to be, but there are some questions about his powers that I have. Anyway, he takes off because he goes to take over the Atomic Research Center where he used to work. Now he's going to take the whole place over and hold hostages and, threaten the world and do that whole kind of thing. But Spider-Man, he's going to go and take care of him because he's Spider-Man and he can take care of anybody. And he can crawl up walls and stuff. So Dr. Octopus doesn't have a chance. And so Spider-Man peeks through the window and sees Dr. Octopus and jumps right in there to take care of him, not having a clue to how powerful Dr. Octopus is. And he jumps up right in there, totally unprepared. And we have this great fight scene, part of it done from Dr. Octopus's point of view, where Spider-Man is trying to avoid Dr. Octopus's arms. And this is the first time he's come across them, and he just can't do it. Dr. Octopus gets him in this great page. Usually, Steve Ditko has 9-panel pages or 6-panel pages, but here we have a couple large panels where Dr. Octopus gets Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is helpless. And this is my first question, which perhaps somebody out there who's read more issues of Spider-Man featuring Dr. Octopus can answer. Why doesn't Dr. Octopus fall over when he's holding Spider-Man like that? Because here's the thing. If Dr. Octopus is a regular guy with mechanical arms, how can he hold up Spider-Man like that with just his regular human legs? And how does he have super balance? Because he can always hold these big heavy things in front of him while he's just standing there. I've always had this question. It seems like he should just fall over, but he doesn't. So does he have some extra superpowers that I am unaware of? Somebody let me know. I'm sure there was an explanation for this at some point in the 700 and something issues of Spider-Man that are out there. Actually, I don't even know how many issues of Spider-Man because there's also Web of Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man. At some point since 1962, there must have been an explanation for this. Anyway, Dr. Octopus has so little respect for Spider-Man that he just tosses him out a window like he was just a regular bug. And Spider-Man can't take it. He's like, oh my God, what's going on? What do I do now? I've never been beaten before, but this time my spider powers were not enough. Is this the end of Spider-Man? He wants to know. It's probably not the end because it's only issue 3 of Spider-Man. We can suspect that Spider-Man will return. But now he's just like, he's completely demoralized by Dr. Octopus. And Dr. Octopus is up to further villainy. We just get some great pages and panels from Steve Ditko of Dr. Octopus tossing people around and creeping around this place and just being awesome. There's this page here where he's just hiding up on the roof, making his legs look like pipes so this guard doesn't see him. It's awesome. This is a great story. But while Dr. Octopus plots further villainy, Peter Parker is back at high school being depressed because he got his ass kicked. And that day, Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four just showed up at the high school, and he's going to give a talk to the high schoolers in the auditorium. And so here's Johnny Storm. Now, what does Johnny Storm have to say? I was asked here to tackle Dr. Octopus, but I've used my flame so much recently, I have to wait a few days to let it get strong again. Now, this is back when, Johnny Storm was just starting too, and I guess his powers weren't all that strong either, if he has to actually wait days for his flame to come back. I don't know what he's been up to. While I'm waiting, your principal asked me to address you. And Peter Parker is sitting there watching him going, if only I had his power, his confidence. But that's easy when you've never been beaten. But Johnny Storm continues his talk, and in this part, he points out to the audience and says, now for a parting thought. Stick to your studies. Stick to your schoolwork and do your best in your studies. Don't be discouraged if it sometimes seems tough. The important thing is never give up. Remember that. Never give up. Ability alone isn't enough. It's one lesson I've learned from my partnership with the Fantastic Four. Even the Fantastic Four have had defeats, but we always come back. Our motto is never say die. And Peter Parker's like, wow, he's right. By golly, he's right. And so at the end, he's like, hey, man, that was a great speech. I'm going to go kick Dr. Octopus's ass now. And so he's all fired up, Spider-Man. He's like, yeah, even the Fantastic Four have been defeated and come back. So can I. So gets in his Spider-Man costume, goes back to where Dr. Octopus is lurking in his atomic research center, avoids all the deadly traps which are there, and goes to face Dr. Octopus once again. But in the meantime, he stops in at this chemical laboratory. Now remember, Peter Parker is a scientific genius. So he stops into the chemical laboratory to make something, which he can do real quick because, like I said, scientific genius. He came up with his web shooters all by himself. And so he comes up with a weapon to fight Dr. Octopus. Now, Dr. Octopus isn't going to be easy, but he tosses off his weapon, which is kind of like this acid stuff that fuses two of his arms together. But that's not going to slow down Dr. Octopus. Dr. Octopus is still going to do his best to kick his ass. And they have this tremendous fight, and it's really awesome. Spider-Man uses his web to hit Dr. Octopus in the face so that he can't see. And eventually, it all comes down to one punch. Because behind the arms, Dr. Octopus is just a regular guy, or at least he seems to be. A regular guy who's really strong and can lift up tremendously heavy objects in front of him without falling down. But one punch from Spider-Man definitely is enough to knock out Dr. Octopus. Spider-Man just had to get past those terrible arms to do it. And he does. And he ties up Dr. Octopus, leaves a little note, and that's all she wrote for him. Meanwhile, Johnny Storm is flaming on to go defeat Dr. Octopus when Spider-Man's like, dude, I already took care of Dr. Octopus, but it was all thanks to you, which confuses the Human Torch. He's like, flaming fireballs. I don't get it. What did I do? And, that's the end of this original story. And you also get a little pinup in the back. Isn't that handy? Back in those days, you got pinups. So this is the first story of Dr. Octopus, which was very important because it was the first time that Spider-Man was defeated. And we saw Spider-Man fought a villain who seemed to be more powerful than Spider-Man. And it made a tremendously exciting story. And it made the villains afterwards, I think the villains afterwards very often had a lot of power because that scenario really worked. Spider-Man going up against a villain who seemed more powerful than him. And of course, Dr. Octopus himself was such a great character that he returned again and again, because not only is he tremendously powerful because of his arms, he's also a genius, which made him tough to beat. Spider-Man did it over and over again, but he was a formidable villain, coming up with all kinds of terrible plots to destroy Spider-Man, and sometimes trying to marry Aunt May, and doing other creepy stuff. He definitely, if he's not the greatest Spider-Man villain, he might be. But, there is the Green Goblin, which we'll have to talk about sometime in the future on Epic Comic Book Wednesday, because that's a pretty great villain as well. So there you go. That's Spider-Man versus Dr. Octopus from the early days of Spider-Man. It was completely awesome. Okay, guys, I will catch you next time.